Hi everyone, my name is Yarrow and you're listening to the Creative Devotion podcast. Hello, it's Sunday. I'm not usually working on Sundays, but it just felt good today to invite you into my Sunday vibes and send an episode your way. I'm sitting on the sofa under an electric blanket and the dogs are on either of my side. We've been to the beach this morning, so the sofa is also full of sand, which is delightful in that it reminds me that I live by the sea, which I love. And the clocks went back this morning, so everything's just kind of a bit more spacious and a bit more soft. I'm also surprised by the fact that it's kind of almost November, which is really wild, but here we are. I recorded this episode that I'm about to share with you in spring this year, and I'm really sorry that this year and last year, I think there's been this pretty long gap between the recording and the actual publishing. And I wish that was different, and I think in the winter I will go back to focusing more on solo episodes and recording a little bit less so that I'm kind of working back on my backlog that I currently still have. And also, I just invited feedback, and I have a lot of sweet questions for the podcast that I'm going to answer in solo episodes. But anyway, I also find that when I listen back and I edit and then upload an interview, it just always seems to kind of weave back into something that is actually really on my mind at the moment. And that's not different with this episode. I spoke to the wonderful, wonderful Caroline Scruggs, who is such an artist in every meaning of the word. She's really inspiring and uplifting and so just really joyful to be around. I loved hearing about her practice and how she's kind of moving through the world and finding sustainable ways of making really good stuff happen. So yeah, we talked about that kind of practice piece turning into the landscape in the season, the joy of doing things slowly and really valuing the process rather than just the product. And we also talked about creative confidence and self-trust. So I hope you'll love it. I would love to hear what you think. A few more updates from me. As you will have noticed, I have changed the name of the podcast again, which at this point is a bit embarrassing, but I think it was time for a change, and sitting with it a little bit more, I feel that creative devotion just kind of captures better what I have already explained. I think 3 episodes back, I was talking about where I'm at with the podcast and the direction, and yeah, so nothing has changed direction-wise or content-wise, but I think this name is just a little bit better. So thank you for your patience and coming along on this naming journey. Another update is that I'm offering a winter retreat this year. So if you've been listening for a while, you know that I really don't like New Year's Eve. I had a big accident almost 2 years back. I don't remember ever having a New Year's Eve party that I really enjoyed. And so this year I just really wanted to own it and was like, you know what? I just want to be really intentional, super slow, very creative. And I also recognize that there are many New Years in different traditions. And in my own rhythm of the year, I also don't feel that the 1st of January is this big portal that it's made out to be. So for me, it's actually the depth of winter. It is a new chapter in a way. I mean, I can't deny that I'm swimming in a culture that thinks that this is how the year is, basically. But I think I just love staying home, also because I have dogs and they obviously get spooked up by the fireworks, and at home is just so beautiful. So I want to invite people into my home basically, and I'm offering this 5-day online retreat, and you can think of it as like an artist journey in your pajamas basically. We will meet every day for 5 days from the 29th of December to the 2nd of January. So really kind of crossing over into the new year together. And each day will begin with a 45-minute workshop on creativity where I will introduce some ideas, concepts, some journaling prompts, some meditation, some sweetness, basically, something to think about. And then we'll have a little break. And then after that, we have 2 hours of quiet co-working time. And I've been offering this quiet co-working time for over 2 years now. I really love it. And it might not be for everyone, and maybe it seems strange to just hang out, and be quiet with other people on Zoom, but let me tell you, there's real magic in that and a lot of freedom as well, because each person works on their own project. Sometimes people knit or paint or draw or write, whatever, or dance. It's really totally up to you. Sometimes people also just rest with it, which I really love, and it still feels like they're being held in this creative container and they're just showing up to what feels right to them at the time. And that in itself is so valuable. So I will be offering this through the Making app. It's $90 for the whole 5 days. I'll link to it in the show notes. You have to have a free account on the Making app to sign up, but it really just takes a minute and they will, sign you up, take your payment, and then you'll get all the information. And I can't wait to see you there. It would be really beautiful to have you. Also, just to say, this is different from the business retreat I'm offering later in January, in case you're confused. I will link to that business retreat as well. That one is free. It's a weekend, it's workshop based, not so much about creativity, but also really exciting, hopefully. All right, so I'm gonna let you enjoy today's episode now, and I'm sending so much love to you. Hello, everyone. As you know, creativity and expressing ourselves has been on my mind lately. I just said to my beautiful guest that I think our conversation is so timely because many of us through the pandemic have had the chance to think about things differently. There's been a lot of priorities shifting and new ideas forming, even in hard times, or maybe especially in hard times. And for me, this spring and summer is a time of really thinking about what I want to express, what is just for myself, and naturally in expression, there can be stuff coming up, right? Anyway, I don't want to waffle too much about how much I love my guest and how excited I am to talk to her. I actually want to just introduce you. But I'm speaking to Caroline Scruggs, who is so many things: a creative coach, an amazing singer, a songwriter, and just all around such a creative being. We met in a mastermind last year, and I got to kind of experience her exploration of what her next steps are, what's important to her. And along the way, we talked about, how we work these things out. So I invited her, and I'm so excited to talk. Caroline, thank you so much for making time. This is so great.
Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you so much for having me on here. I'm so beyond thrilled to be here connecting with you today.
Yay. All right, let's start by checking in where you are in the world, what nature is like around you, just so that we.
Yeah. I loved that this was your first question that you asked. So I am in Virginia in the United States. So it's on the East Coast, basically right in the middle of the East Coast. And I am on the coast in an area called Hampton Roads. So very near the ocean, very near rivers, which is lovely. So we have different bodies of water. And then if you go up a couple hours west is the Appalachian Mountains, which is the oldest mountain range in the world. And so I love Virginia. I love our state. There's so much nature everywhere. And as a matter of fact, I've gotten so much closer to nature in the last even year, like really through the pandemic, just being outside more by myself. But in the past year, and I love that you were saying that the spring and summertime is kind of when you feel this calling to express yourself and look at how you are finding your self expression and acting on that, because I have been feeling the same thing. Like I've been feeling so intensely lately that my seasons are mirroring the seasons of nature, and this is such a amazing, like, quivering time, the springtime, at least right here right now. It's spring, and everything is just like quaking and quivering and buzzing and coming to life, and it's so full of energy and creativity, like in the most literal way. And so I'm just finding so much inspiration from that right now, just by being outside here.
Yeah, me too. And I want to mention, like, yeah, I really hear that. And also, 2 days ago, the black magnolia tree opened its bloom for the first time. It was
Yes.
so mesmerizing and beautiful. And
Mm,
I'm like, wow, like, what a blessing that I get to witness this. And
mm,
how amazing that these things really do happen even after the time we've had. and there's
Mm.
a real sense of hope in that. So yeah.
Yes, I
Mhm.
love that.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, my next question, you can really take in any direction you like. I would love to hear a little bit more about what your creative practice is like at the moment, either day to day or what you're aspiring to, or,
Yeah.
what it feels like or what it looks like. Tell us.
Sure, sure. I love it. So, well, going back to nature, it's very, very tied to nature right now, I would say, more than ever before in my entire life. I'm just discovering how at home I feel and how aligned I feel when I'm outside, just laying on a blanket, in the trees, watching the clouds go by, is when I feel at my most creative and natural, organic, I don't know, way. And so I have been really, I mean, that is like a must for me now more than it ever has been, to spend so much time by myself, specifically outside, doing nothing but observing and being. And so that has made a huge impact. And one of the things that I'm one of the projects that I'm currently working on, that I'm putting a lot of my creating time into, is I just have a simple art journal, just like a unlined kind of multimedia journal that I got from the craft store. And I told myself this year, I usually like go in and out of journaling, like daily journaling, and in just a regular lined journal. But I decided this year I really wanted to go more for a mixed media kind of journaling. So being able to draw what happens in my days, or paint, or collect things that I find during the day, and then write around all of these images. And I find that it just, oh my gosh, it enhances my creativity so much, and it's so much more exciting to me. It really feels like I'm accessing my inner child when I'm journaling these days. And so I've actually been, so it started out really as like drawings of my dogs over and over and over again, just sleeping. But now it's progressed. I'm looking at it right now. It's progressed into, I've been collecting flowers that I find in nature and pressing them in books, and then I'll include them into my illustrations and my journaling in this one book. And it's so satisfying, like the whole process of being out in the wilderness, collecting a couple of things here and there that are really beautiful, just like little tiny blossoms here and there, coming back, pressing them, and then once they're dry, coming back and Mod Podging them and putting them into being like, how am I going to fit this into all of my thoughts? And it's just such an amazing process to me that I've never thought to do before, and that I've never taken the time to do before. But it's just for me, and it really slows down the process of creating for me, which is so important, I think, nowadays, when we're so pressured as, whether you count yourself as an artist, quote unquote, or not. There's so much pressure around production and fast pace. Like, how much can you put out there? How much can you produce in a small amount of time? Where this is, number one, it's just for me, like it's not for anyone else to share. And number two, it really allows me to have this like no rush mentality about it. It really draws it out. So I would say that's the first creative practice that I have right now, or like the first really important thing about the creative practice that I have right now. And then the other thing I would say is that I have always identified as a musician, kind of first and foremost, like a musician performer. And although I do all kinds of mediums of art, like you name it, I've probably done it. I dance, I do visual art, I have podcasted, I do a lot of different things, but I've professionally been a musician. And so I have found, through years of, like, I went to school for it, I studied it, and then I went and I was a professional. And so there has been so much pressure around music for me throughout my entire life. And unfortunately, that pressure has led to I would say a lot of like, mm, I'm gonna go ahead and say like negative consequences because I don't regret anything or how it happened. But I think that when you have this sense of like great pressure weighing on you and your creativity, even in one facet of it, it can really affect how much you create, what you create, and maybe most importantly, it kind of suppresses your authentic creativity and imagination and what you really yearn to and are called to create, if that makes sense. So I'm really working on at this point in my life, not taking things too seriously and not forcing myself to do music all the time, even though I count myself very much as a musician. I really try to wake up these days and say, okay, what am I super jazzed about creating? Is it working on my art journal? Is it maybe writing a song? Is it playing my theremin? Is it something else completely entirely? Like maybe I want to make something out of clay, like something completely random. But to be able to feed my soul in that way, because for the last, 20 something years, I have kind of been forcing my soul into boxes. And I'm now my MO is to completely free it and let it out to play every single day. So I would say that's a good summary of my creative practice at this moment.
That makes so much sense. I really love that. I was nodding along as you were speaking, and I really relate to the desire to reclaim slowness and
Mm.
yeah, like questioning productivity and all the small and big ways. And I feel like in this part of me sometimes it's like, oh, we talked about this for years, you know? And yet
Mhm.
at the same time, almost every week or every month at least, I'm finding this new layer of understanding what it really means to give myself permission and to trust that I'm making valuable contributions to my own development, but also to us collectively, even if I do it quite slowly.
Yeah.
Um, because it's like, yeah, it's very counterintuitive, so socially, I guess,
Yes.
society level, right? I'm hand sewing a top, for example, at the moment with French seams, which is such a joy. Like I can't tell you, it's a really simple linen top. I made it before on a machine, and I was like, actually, I don't want to get my machine out right now. It's quite loud.
Mm.
Sometimes it does weird things I don't really understand, Why
Mhm.
why don't I sit down and like hand sew it? And at first when I told friends, it seemed really outrageous to people. But the funny thing is that we think that knitting, for example, a jumper is totally normal and that takes ages. So,
Mm,
you know,
true.
yeah, right? Like why not spend 7 or 8 hours sewing a top if it's well made and you're going to wear it for 10, 20 years? Like that's totally
Yeah.
proportional and beautiful and can be such a fun thing to do. And anyway, I'm so in love with like how the thread goes through the linen and how the
Mm,
French seams come together. And it really is super eye-opening as
mm,
to how much unpacking and unlearning I still have to do, if I'm really honest with myself. So yeah.
I love that so much. I'm so glad that you're doing that. And it sounds, to me, like when we make those decisions, even though, yeah, like society would say, well, that's preposterous. Like, why wouldn't you just save the time? Because that's such a thing in today's society of like we want to save time, we want to shortcut because we value the product over the process generally in our society these days. And that's like what I feel like I'm on the same boat as you where it is so deeply ingrained in us, like this, no, you just want to get to the end so that you can have the product. And yet I feel like there are people waking up all over the place that are saying their soul is kind of saying like, wait a minute, wait, but didn't we used to like wasn't it used to be about the process of it, like the very joy that you get from putting the needle very slowly through the fabric and pulling it shut and seeing how it closes. And it's very like meditative, isn't it? Like to bring you into that present moment when you're doing it yourself and you slow down enough to be enjoying that very moment. um I can't think of anything more more beautiful and more peaceful, really, when you get to that point where you're okay with that, and not only okay with it, but that becomes a, a big value for you in your life, to be like, no, I'm going to enjoy the process of this thing that isn't for money, it isn't for anyone else, it's just for me because I want to and because it brings me joy. It's so radical these days. It's such a revolutionary concept, I feel.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. So weird. How have we gotten here? Right?
Yeah. Right.
Oh,
Oh.
anyway, yeah, I mean, yeah, so much there. Um, I also wanted to ask, it sounds to me like, I met you about a year ago and I've
Mhm.
seen a little bit of your journey. I've seen these beautiful things that you've come forward with. And I know a lot has been changing for you as well in the past 2 years. And just so that people know, because I think of a podcast kind of as like a living archive. And I want
Mhm.
people to know that we're recording in April 2022 for future context, basically.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I wonder, like, how has the pandemic changed your creativity? What has that been like for you?
Yeah. So it has really honestly transformed. I feel like I have transformed as a person truly for the better, and I'm so grateful for it. For kind of the silver lining of the intense phase that our world has been going through. So I'm really grateful for that. I just want to say. And so like I said, I've been a professional musician for about the last 10 years of my life. I'm a singer in a couple of jazz bands, and that was the main source of my income. And of course, as for so many musicians, in the span of 3 days 2 years ago, we just saw all of our gigs vanish off of the calendar. And so I had a year's worth of gigs booked, and they were just gone in a matter of days. And so I had to sit back, and all of a sudden I had time to sit back and say, okay, well, what am I going to do now with my time? And what happened was I began working on my own music more, because I had that time. And I also began teaching more and coaching more. And I actually came up with programs, virtual programs, because I saw such a need for people, most of all for connection, like for people to be able to still connect with others in an authentic way, and how to make that happen um, virtually, where people couldn't see each other and everyone was so isolated and so in shock and suffering. And um, I believe that humans very much need, community and self-expression. These are two things that are vital to our sanity and our health. And so I created these programs, and I'm super excited actually to talk to you about. I'm actually about to put on Uke Camp again, which I'll bring up in a little while. But before I talk about those programs, I guess bringing it back to me, and how has it changed my creativity? It's really I've been reflecting on this a lot lately, actually, because I have a lot of people um, say this to me. They say, when we're talking about their struggles with create creative block and fears surrounding their own creativity, because I'm a creativity and self-expression coach. And some of my clients sometimes say, well, you're so lucky. It's been easier for you because you've always been an artist, like from the beginning. Um, and you've always performed, and so you've had this confidence that I lack. And it's so interesting when they say that, because they have a point, but what they don't understand is that I was, for the first, majority of my life, yes, I played these parts. I was an artist and I was a performer, I was a musician, I was doing all of these things, but I wasn't necessarily doing them with the intentions that I wish that I was. And what I mean by that is I'm very much naturally an affirmation seeker, very, very much. And so I was using art and music to try and reach the quote unquote like success, a successful life. Um, and that success being like the term that is defined by my culture, basically. So, making it quote unquote as a singer or a performer. Um, and I was way more concerned with that and with how I looked to people than actually, using these things as tools to express my truest self and like what my heart yearned to say. And so even though I had these things and they were my life and I identified very closely with them, um, they weren't fulfilling me for so much of my life because I wasn't using them in the right way. And I didn't even at that point in my life, I wasn't aware of that fact that like I was just using them in the wrong way. And I think that that's the thing when people realize that these tools, that art and music and singing and songwriting and storytelling, when they realize that these are tools that humans, for as long as we have been around, art has been around, and we have had the need to express ourselves in our full truth. So once we realize that these are tools for that, they're not tools to look cool and to try to quote unquote make it or be successful. And it's tough because that's what my culture has told me from the beginning. That's what media has told me, like you should try to be on American Idol because then you'll be successful and you'll have money and you'll have fame. And it's not about that at all. And it took me so long. It basically took me till the pandemic when I had the time to slow down and think about these really hard things that I came to terms with. um, it took me then to realize this, that I was using it, I was misusing these tools the whole time. And so when I finally had this beautiful realization, like a very holy crap moment, um, then I it lit a total fire in me, and I started bringing that into my teaching and my coaching and my even when I'm performing virtually, I can't help but talk about how, creativity is for everyone. It's not just for the artists, quote unquote, again, that we put on pedestals. It's not something that's separate from everyone else. Like these tools are there for every single human, and it's so vital to use them, to be able to use them to express yourself, to connect with yourself, to realize things about yourself that you didn't even know. And that's what happens when you begin to really use these tools for what they are meant to do, if that makes sense.
Ooh, yes. 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 I think there's so much joy in living in this really, or like embodying a really expansive understanding of what counts as art or creativity. Because we think along these really narrow lines of like, well, but I'm not a painter or I can't really sing. And actually, when we drop that and we give ourselves permission to be really present with these small acts of creativity in life, we build our confidence, and it's like a snowball effect because, yeah, we just like become more and more connected with that flow of creation, and we create even bigger and more beautiful things.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
true. Yeah. But also so much easier said than done.
Right. Right. Totally. Well, so here's the beautiful part is that this is a big thing that I have realized, and again, so I do these programs, and they're basically they I help people. I have a I have a gift, and now I know this about myself, and my gift is to help people unlock their voices through singing and songwriting. And it's such an amazing process, and it's so magical to guide people through this process, because it's first of all, it's way easier than people think it is to write a song and to sing. Second of all, nobody's voice is bad. We all, like, how many people, are terrified of singing, let alone just using their voice anyway, or being apologetic about using our voice. Like, we have so much baggage and shame and embarrassment about using our voices so much. And that is a direct correlation to how you show up in the world, and um, how you feel about yourself and your deservability to take up the space that you were meant to, and the space that is here on earth for you to take up, because we all have space that we are meant to take up. That is our right, as human beings and as just beings in the universe. Like, that's how nature works. And we all have stories to tell, and we all have things and gifts to let shine on this earth. And so the magic about being able to sing and being able to write a song and then, perform it, whether it's for yourself or sharing it with the world, is that if you can do that, if you can unlock your voice and you can sing, you can do anything. Like, you can use your voice, you can have conversations, because that's so much more, it seems so much more doable than singing, because once you reach that cherry on top first, it's like everything else comes naturally. Like you said, it's a snowball effect, and it begins to mirror in all of the facets of your life, this confidence that is such a deep knowing that you deserve to take up this space, and that you and your voice matter, and they're so valuable. And so the program that I have coming up, actually, May 11th through 15th, it's called Uke Camp. And it's this really cool 5-day free experience that all you need is a ukulele and an open mind. You can come in with zero musical experience. Like, I'm talking, you never picked up an instrument before, you've never sung in your life, maybe, or not since you were a child. And you come in, and for 5 days, I give 5 live lessons. Um, and I give you a little creative coaching. So we go through a lot of the main creative fears that we as humans have, that kind of block us from raising our voices, from expressing our true selves. And then I actually teach you a chord progression on the ukulele. And you get a different chord progression each day. And then I give you a songwriting prompt, so something to write a song about that day. They're very specific, so that they're super easy for people, and they're kind of they're always kind of quirky. Like, there's nothing ever about, like, write a love song. I always pick uh, interesting things, like, write a song about something you find in your house, or write a song about a celestial being, whether that's like a planet or a comet or something like that. So it's always very creative. And then what happens is you take those chords and you take that songwriting prompt, and you take a timer. You set a timer for an hour, and then it's your job to write a song. And everybody is always surprised. Like, it really does. If you set a timer for an hour, you can write a song in an hour. It's wild. And then they have the choice to record that song that they wrote. They upload that on our private Facebook group of Ute campers. And then you watch as all of these songs come in, all of the campers of the day who wrote their little songs, their silly little songs that are completely imperfect, and completely perfect in their imperfectness. And we all comment on each other's and just give each other massive love and support for showing up in this super courageous, vulnerable way, and trying something new, and making a creation that wasn't there before, and raising their voice. And that's what this experience is about. It's just 5 days of, showing up, practicing, taking up space, even if it's not perfect, and getting back into that creative process that came so naturally to us as children, but that a lot of us have fallen off of, or this fear has gotten in the way and begun blocking us from expressing ourselves in this way and being playful. And so it's like for people of every musical level too. So we have, super seasoned songwriters come in too that just are suffering from writer's block, and they come in and they write 5 songs in a week, and they're like, holy moly, I can't believe that I broke through. So it's this beautiful community of people from all over the globe, from all walks of life, all ages, all musical levels, just coming together for 5 days in the name of creativity and song. It's really amazing, Yarrow. And yeah, I'm so excited to do it again, May 11th through 15th. So if anybody on here is listening, you are absolutely welcome to join, and I'll tell you where to go, I guess, when we're done here to enroll. But yeah, it's absolutely free. It's an amazing experience.
I bet it is. I think there's so much beauty in committing to a daily practice, even if it's like a short period of time, and being with other
Absolutely.
people and doing something that's kind of really scary. It would be scary
Yes,
for me for sure. And then
absolutely.
as well, that is so cool. Yeah, really cool. I mean, you're sharing so much around music and voice finding, and I wonder what you would say to someone who's listening now and they're like, yeah, that all sounds great, but like I really, really cannot sing, right?
Hmm.
Which is
Hmm.
secretly kind of me, to be honest.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, good. Okay, I'm so glad that you bring this up. I'm so glad that you bring this up. Because like I said earlier, I know, oh, believe me, like I know how difficult and how easier said than done this can be for a lot of people. A lot of people, singing is absolutely terrifying. I would say the majority of people in the world, singing is absolutely terrifying. Um, and that's not an uncommon thing. Like, first of all, that is completely normal, because it's really the thing about singing, the thing about your voice is you only get one, right? So it's this instrument, you can't trade it in for a new voice. You only have one, you have the one that you have. But it's a lot like, we've had this beautiful self-love kind of movement going on in the last, however long, few years or decade, or um, however long it's been around. I think that it's growing, this idea of, you know, really working to and taking baby steps, because it's not going to happen all at once, but taking baby steps to accept and embrace yourself and your body for exactly what it is. And even if it doesn't look like a body that we have traditionally seen in the media, for instance, acknowledging all of the amazing things about our bodies that let us live how we live and do what we do, and be humans and walk around on this amazing earth, right? They're our carriers. And so I like to put it into this perspective of the voice is a part of that. Like, if you're looking at self-acceptance holistically, the voice is very much a part of your body. And I really like, inviting people to think of your voice as a separate entity from you. So for me, my voice is very much like, I have this image of a little bird, and for a long time that bird has been in a cage because I have kept it filtered, because I was raised to think that if I let her kind of fly free and play and do what she wants and sing how she wants, then it would be too much. I would be too much, or it wouldn't be okay. It wasn't safe to let her fly free. Um, but once you can see your voice as, the separate entity from you, and you begin observing it in a different way, and really kind of trying to figure out what it wants to do, and what it wants from you. And then you begin observing yourself from an outside point of view of your voice and saying, okay, well, how am I treating my voice here? Am I being a good owner to it? You could call yourself the owner, you could call yourself a partner to it, you could call yourself a caretaker of it, right? Because if it's this thing that really you do have the power over, because you can choose to use it and let it fly, or you can choose to continue to have it in a cage some of the time. And so that playing with that visual can help a lot of people. But I would say really, it's all about baby steps. You're not going to go out and maybe sing a huge karaoke number tomorrow in front of a bunch of strangers, and that's completely fine. But a really, really beautiful baby step is, and I guess this, okay, this is a big baby step, but I can guarantee that if people join Uke Camp, this program that I have that's completely free, like, you have absolutely nothing to lose. The beautiful thing about it is whatever your comfort level is, you can you can roll with that. So if you just wanted to attend the live lessons, which is just me going live on the private Facebook group, and everyone's just watching and playing along, playing the ukulele, even if you just did that and you didn't want to go further, then you don't have to. You can just play along with me on the live. Or if you wanted to go further and just see, okay, I'm going to try to write a song. Let's just see what happens, right? You could write a song and not share it. Or if you get to the point where you write that song and you see the people who, and this community of people is just beyond beautiful and supportive and so wonderful. Like, it really restores your faith in humanity, the Uke Camp community of people. You can, maybe see them posting. And then if you decide that you want to post, then you do that. So you take it step by step and give yourself permission to do that. To say, you know what, if I do one of these things, if I just sign up for Uke Camp and watch a lesson, I'm going to be further along in freeing my voice and freeing that little bird than I was before this. So that's what I would suggest. How does that make you feel?
That makes me feel so good. Yes. I
Good.
really feel like the idea of thinking of my voice as a separate entity is really doing something for me, because
Mm,
I would never let that other spirit down, and I feel
mhm.
like that's a gift to have a voice, even, and
Yes.
to make some
Yes.
space to use it. And but you're right, it's baby steps. Like, I never understood that people do karaoke as like a leisure activity. This is to me. I'm like, full body sweats. When people do that for their birthday, I'm so sad because I don't want to let them down, and it's their birthday, whatever, But I always,
Yeah.
try to weasel myself out of it somehow. And
Right.
I don't drink, so it's extra awkward. And I'm just like, how do you do
Sure.
it sober? I don't understand. But
I
anyway.
totally get that. I totally get that. Well, and let me add, because this is a lot of what I talk about too. So I do Uke Camp, which is my free offering, and it's so just transfer, like, I literally watch the transformation of hundreds of people who sign up and do this just for the heck of it, because they say, like, I don't think that I can write a song, but you know what the heck, I'm gonna sign up and I'm gonna see what happens. And I swear, like, the majority of people come in, they write a song, and I witness this transformation of, like, their eyes when they come back on and they're sharing this song, and they can't believe that that came out of them. And it's this holy shit moment that I get to witness over and over and over, of humans surprising themselves and realizing, like, there's magic in me that I didn't even know was there, and I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. Like, this is why I do what I do, because people don't realize what they're capable of so much, and the power and the magic that lies within every single one of us, that is dying to come out, and that the world surely sorely needs all of our gifts and all of our magic. And so this is really just like a like a way to really light that up and ignite something in you that needs to be ignited. But I also wanted to say that I have this other my premium coaching course is called Raise Your Voice, and it's an 8-week long course, and it's all about it's kind of more of a deep dive into healing the relationship that you have with your voice. And we do that by, number one, deconditioning, like letting go of all of the baggage that we hold around our voices in this culture that our culture has kind of heaped on us, and our families and the media and everyone kind of unknowingly we have all of this heaped on us. And it's also about, I introduce all of these very unconventional vocal exercises, and also kind of visualizations and just perspectives, like think of your voice as a separate entity, trying to break down all of the barriers and all of the structures that we have in our minds surrounding our voices, and the amount of space that we are allowed to take up here on earth, the amount of noise that we are allowed to make, and kind of trying to break those down, and introducing the idea that that's not necessarily the truth, you know, that you are absolutely allowed to sing and to feel like to to have it feel really good. Like, imagine if you could sing a song out loud right now, just by yourself, and instead of like this incessant ego voice in your head being like, "Oh, you suck. Like this, you need to stop. You need to be quiet. Maybe you'll bother somebody outside. Somebody's going to hear you in the other room." If that voice was completely quiet, and instead you really were taking so much joy and pleasure just in the act, like the physical act, how it felt to vocalize and to be using your voice in this whole new capacity, and having that feeling feel free, like having your soul feel free by using your voice and letting it out, with this tool that is literally there with you always. Your voice is this instrument that goes with you everywhere, from the day you're born till the day you die. So it's just a magical new way of thinking about this ancient tool that I think we have all forgotten is so powerful for us to use.
Thank you. That was so much of what I needed to hear.
Yay, I'm so glad.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do more singing. You're so right. Yeah.
Good. Yes.
Yes. Just for myself for now, because baby steps. But
Yes.
anyway, I have one more question for you. I mean, I could definitely talk to you forever, but I want to respect your time and everyone else's time. So
Sure.
I just witness in what you're sharing, and where you've been and where you're going, so much willingness to do the work and overcome those barriers and really think
Mm.
about how you can be of service. And I wonder how you work with imposter syndrome if it ever comes up. And it sounds like you've done a lot of work around your voice, but maybe it does come up in other creative ways. And
Mm.
how is that feeling? Is singing helping you with that maybe?
Mm. I love this question, and to be honest, I go through imposter syndrome and self-doubt. I actually lately have been dealing with it a lot. Honestly, and uh, when I really think on it, this is what I tell my students. So I would say, first of all, the number one thing that helps me with creative block and imposter syndrome is when I am helping other people through it, because it gives me such perspective, because I love other people so much. I love like taking people through the creative process and helping them get unblocked and showing them, see, it's a lot of this is in your head, in your mind, in your ego. A lot of this is fear driven. And if you can figure out the ways to move through those roadblocks, then the other side, you will have freedom and inspiration like you've never known. And then watching them go through that process and see every time that it's true, that it works, reminds me, and reminds me to have self-compassion and to tell myself those same exact things, because it's always so much easier for us to love other people, I feel like, and to support other people, to nurture other people, um, to assure other people of their power and of their capabilities. And so if we can do that and then take that same energy and bring it back to ourselves, so powerful, such a powerful exercise. So I would say that. And then number two, I was saying, like, I've been going through a lot of, just little moments of self-doubt where my ego comes out and it's like, what right do you have, Caroline, to do any of this, or to say this to people, or to teach people, blah 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 blah, and it just goes on and on. um and I have to take a minute and remember, this is what I like to remind myself, that when my when my inner critic is going nuts and is telling me all of these things and is trying to convince me that my potential and my capabilities are limited, that is the very moment where I can either believe it, or I can choose to see that it's it's only doing that, like my inner critic is blaring like a when it does that, it's because I'm on the precipice of growth and of transformation, and it wants to keep me safe, and it's not a bad thing. Like our minds are there to protect us ultimately, so it's okay, but in realizing that is actually the sign not to run away and hide, but the sign to keep going, because on the other side of that is unimaginable. Like, is something waiting for me that is growth unimaginable, and life and dreams unimaginable to me right now. That if I can just, keep showing up, keep trusting my curiosity and my creativity and my intuition and my inner voice and my heart, and just keep going, that I will get to the other side. And that's a huge thing that we talk about a lot in youth camp, is just kind of how can we rewire ourselves to remember that fact, that when the alarm starts blaring and the fear comes, during the creative process or during life in general, how can we remember that, okay, something is coming for me, that is amazing, I will keep on going. And I think that in order to do that, it takes, community, it takes accountability, it takes self-compassion and patience, and inspiration, and these are all the best things in life. And so I think that we should constantly put ourselves in inspiration's way, and seek out, good people who are curiosity driven and creativity driven. And so another reason to come join you camp with me, because
Yeah.
it will definitely put you in inspiration's way.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think being in the right environment when you want to experiment and express yourself in new ways, that's so important. And that's such a
Yeah,
beautiful note to end on as well. I love what you said, and I'm really excited
absolutely.
to share it. Yeah. So, tell us how people can connect with you. You mentioned your offerings. Is there anything else they should know? Where do you like to hang out?
Sure, I would love to share. And I realize maybe this episode might not come out before this coming youth camp. So I just want to put it out there, that I offer youth camp, seasonally, generally. So I'm planning on doing it, at least 3 times a year, if not four. So the way that people can kind of keep in the loop of what's happening, and of the Raise Your Voice course that I offer as well, you can go to my website, which is carolinescruggs.com, and that's Caroline. scruggs.com. And that kind of has all of my information about everything on it, including, I am also a solo artist, and so you can access my latest single release, which is called Altitude Sickness, which Yarrow I gave to you to listen to, and I know you appreciated that.
Yeah.
You can, yeah, yeah. You can also access my Instagram on there, which I try to show up on Instagram with good, yummy, inspirational stuff pretty often for people. And then if you want to go straight to the Uke Camp, you're like ready to sign up and see what it's all about, you can go to theukecamp.com, which is THEUKECAMP.com, and you can enroll at any time, and it's absolutely free.
Beautiful. Thank you so, so much, Caroline. It was really good to
Of
talk with
course.
you.
Oh
And
my gosh, I enjoyed it so much.
great
Thank you.
sing conversation. So good.
Totally. Totally.